Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to tell you pajama pants are back. Yes, I do have hair. And here we are for another list preview for my upcoming battle with Lane here on the channel. Today, I will be bringing Necrons back, and I am working actually towards my competitive builds. And this one is a hybrid. I have had success with the Canoptek court, and we've had success off the Phalanx. That I wanted to kind of mix and match the two a bit and bring some of the powerhouse in there and really see what we can come up with, what works, what doesn't. And I think I got something really nice here. So as always, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the bell to get notified on all the content we bring here on the channel, including Lane's list preview. He's going to be bringing Votan back, as well as the battle report and a lot of other 40K related content, from army descriptions to just general tournament tech, all that good stuff. All right, let's jump over and talk about the list, because I'm real excited to unveil this thing today. All right, here we go. This is the Canoptek Harvest, my newest, latest, and greatest version of it, with a combination of some of the Phalanx going on with this as well, too. Here we go. So, for starters, where the idea of this list came about with this is more or less I really like how the Immortals have been playing. I really like their strengths. Xeris is very powerful in what he's able to give in buffs, so I wanted to kind of bring that in and try that out. This list, I'm actually going to be doing fixed secondaries because that was one of the powerhouses from the original Phalanx. The only thing I'm missing from this list is I really wish I could have gotten the Relic in there that allows me to gain a command point on a 2-up whenever my opponent gains a command point, since I won't be gaining any additional CP other than the turn-based command points. However, a lot of the command points that I'm looking at spending for this list are more on the defensive side of things. So, spending command points in my first turn and having 2 going into my opponent's turn and defensively, I'm hoping should actually keep the balance. We'll see how that part goes. That's one of the places that I want to tweak this list a bit. I would like to. I'm about 5 points off being able to get that in there. So we'll see. Let's get over into the stars of the show. So first of all, since we're Canoptek, this means that any of our units that are going to be in a Canoptek control matrix will get full rerolls to hit. So how that matrix works is that we need to control at least half of the objective markers in No Man's Land. My home field will always be a matrix, but in order to have No Man's Land be a matrix, I need to control at least half of the objective markers at the beginning of the phase. That's critical for how a lot of these units function, and so how I'm going to be able to shift that so I can have No Man's Land be a control matrix when I start fighting in the game. All right, so again, the stars of the show. So first things first, we have the 3 Canoptek Stalkers. These guys are, in my opinion, just an auto-include in Canoptek court. Being able to reroll all the hits on these guys are huge. High damage output with their D6 plus 1 shots blast, high strength, good AP, and decent damage. This is one of the only places that I would probably spend a command point on offensively, and that is off a stratagem that allows me to ignore cover to a unit that is within 18 inches of a Cryptek model. So another Cryptek model in my army can select a unit that's within 18 inches of him, and then these guys will gain the benefit to ignore cover, which their AP2 does kind of yield needing that ignore cover buff. It really does help out to be able to knock that cover away, especially with things like Armor of Contempt and other ways of reducing AP on weapons. Then combined with cover, can take these guys down in their AP value very, very quickly. So that's a big starting point with these guys. High damage output, good mobility, they're just able to move around, and they're really pretty defensive. That 4-up invuln is really strong and has been very obnoxious for these guys. Lane loves it. I know he loves when I plop those 4-ups. I think these guys are part of the reason that Lane has gone to his dev wound list with DevWatch, is units like this being able to just hit a 4-up invulnerable save and keep themselves alive. I'm sorry, I misspoke. These guys are AP3. AP3 on the Doom Blaster. I had to double check that. But if you have Armor Contempt, you're knocking it down to AP2. Then if you're in cover, basically looking at it being AP1. against a Marine, giving them the 50-50. Now we look at what these guys have for the 4-up impulse. It's that same annoying defensive buff. The 3 damage is really cool, really good, and really able to pick up some of those tougher infantry, such as Terminators that have 3 wounds, or even Eradicators that also have 3 wounds. Now, the big kicker is these guys can overwatch with rerolls if they're in my control matrix. That's a pretty nasty overwatch, being able to hit on 5s. That's another place where the defensive stratagems come in. That's a big place where I would love to see that extra command point for it. Considering there's 2 other stratagems I plan on using a lot more frequently, one more so than the other, but we'll see. I think it's just going to come down to, I have 3 stratagems I want to play, and I can probably save into 2 CP. So which way and what way we do with it, it's just going to have to kind of think about that before the turn begins. So let's move over into the Wraiths. The Wraiths are going to kind of have a different role than some armies have in the past. They will be led by a Technomancer, and the Technomancer will still have the relic that allows these guys to infiltrate. That may be a place that we change in the near future, since I could put that the relic that allows me to gain command points back with whenever my opponent does, just so I can get additional command points on the 2-up, especially on the fixed objectives. But we'll see how that plays out. I'm going to be playing Cleanse and Storm Hostile objectives off of this list. Since the way this army plays, first of all, objective markers are a big part of primary missions. So by playing Storm Hostile objectives, it's kind of helping. This was one of the issues that happened in 9th edition with a very similar secondary. I can't fully remember the name, but one of the reasons that there was issues with it was literally just playing 40k. People would pick this secondary because it would just require you to do, well, what the game wants you to do, and that's play 40k. Take objective markers. In this one, I need to flip objective markers with Storm Hostile objectives. And a lot of my army has buffs as far as going after objective markers and playing on them, whether it's from the Canoptek Control Nexus or the Immortals, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Wraiths, however, are going to be a unit that's going to be dealing with Cleanse. So Cleanse, I get 2 points every time I ding an objective marker or complete an action on it. Because all my Wraiths are equipped with pistols, this means they can do that even when they're in combat. The Infiltrate will allow them to pick an objective marker, get on that, and because of the Technomancer, these guys will be very, very difficult to move. Now, they do have a very, very far move, and since I'm not slowed down by Crypt Thralls in the unit at this time, I could just put them there and have them move and get on an objective and cleanse it. Right now, I don't want the risk of not being able to at least get the 2 points on turn 1. I might be a little overzealous in that, and we'll see how that plays out after I try this one time, but the Technomancer's Relic might be the place that I cut points in order to get that other relic in there to have more command points. We'll see how that all plays out. The Wraiths having 4 wounds and the Feel No Pain means they're going to be very, very tough to take care of. Also, one of my stratagems gives them the Lone Op ability once they're targeted with shooting, so these guys will be almost impossible to remove from a defensive objective marker in No Man's Land early in the game, and even late. They've really got to hit them hard. World Leaders could do some damage in there, especially with some of their speed. Angron charging into these guys would probably be able to hurt them really bad, but actually being able to take the objective marker from me and stopping me from cleanse is going to be tough. They have pistols, so they can cleanse even when they're in combat, and that's going to be mostly their goal for most of the army and most of the day. They can run out there, they can go out there and fight, because again, if I'm able to hit my opponent hard and remove most of their assets, then I can have other units cleanse, and I can take the board in other ways. And I do have other units that do have cleansing capabilities because of what they are and what they do. Heck, even the Doomstalkers can cleanse if we wander off that way. Next up, we'll go over to the Canoptek Tomb Spiders. These guys are my babies. These are my favorite units in like 40k in general. I love me some spiders. So today I will be running once again my 6 spiders, 3 2-mans of spiders with particle beamers. This gun has devastating wounds. For each spider, they actually take 2 of them. So it's 2d6 shots per spider, 4d6 shots per squad, with blast and devastating wounds. Combined with the fact that they can reroll hits in the control node, makes these guys very, very tough. And in combat, they actually hit like trucks. These guys are vehicles, so they could tank shock if I wish. They have a Gloom Prism, so any mortal wounds or psychic attacks that are coming in, I'm getting a 5-up Feel No Pain against, which is cool now that it includes the mortal wounds on it. This was a recent nerf-ish. It happened kind of recent, where initially the Gloom Prism only gave the 4-up Feel No Pain versus Psychic. Now they weakened it to a 5-up, but it includes mortal wounds as well as an aura, so that's really nice. On top of that, they'll also give any vehicle unit just a 6-up Feel No Pain in general, which includes the Doom Stalkers and the spiders themselves. Spiders are one of my favorites. I love these guys. They're all around versatile unit that I think a lot of people are sleeping on in the Canoptek court for massive amounts of Wraiths, as opposed to these really tough, really obnoxious guys that it's absolutely hilarious when one of them reanimates back. Now we'll move over into the stuff that's been coming over from the Phalanx, which is the Immortals. Now, in my previous iterations of Canoptek Court, I was running the Immortals. I was running the Tesla Immortals because you could spend 0 CP and give them devastating wounds off of a stratagem, and that was awesome for all the shots off Tesla, and now we cannot do that. So the stratagem changed. You can still target one of these Immortal units, and you can still do it for free. So there might be some times that I do this because of the fact that the cryptechs in the unit still do have some decent weaponry. And again, it's not costing me any CP to do it because of the overlords there, and it's still a battle tactic. But the stratagem does not affect the Immortals or the overlords because it says any cryptech unit in that squad. So it would only be the cryptechs themselves, which the Plasmancer was one that could do some work off that. He's got a decent gun. And again, it's 0 CP, so why not? So we have 2 squads of Immortals. First squad we have is our Gauze Flare, or the Gauze Blasters. So these guys are going to have a Plasmancer, so they'll be able to crit on 5-ups. Then they have the Cryptech in there, so they count as a Cryptech unit. So in the control node, they will get full rerolls to hit, critting on 5s for lethal hits, and Xeris giving them an additional AP to get them up to AP 2. Surprisingly, these guys can hit and really hurt some tougher targets. Even though they have that lower strength weapon, they still have that lethal hits to be able to devastate the field. I do have 2 Crypt Thralls in this unit as the other, just to be able to shrug off some wounds. An Overlord leading the unit, because the Overlord has a Resurrection Orb, the battle tactic strat for free, which doesn't matter as much. But one of the big kickers is this guy really can hit, especially on objective markers. The one thing about Immortals is that they are able to reroll all wounds versus a unit on an objective marker, which again, with me doing storm hostile objectives, as well as the fact of just needing the control nodes and stuff like that, these guys reward me just for playing Warhammer in general, trying to take objective markers. These guys obviously have a little more of that damage output and are going to be basing on Xeris. The Plasmancer does some really nasty damage, so he'll be cool to see again. And yeah, I've been happy with this squad, and also happy with their brethren, the Tesla. Now, the Tesla is not going to have a Plasmancer, and they have an Overlord with Translocation Shroud, because the Tesla is an assault weapon. So they can advance and get onto targets, get onto objective markers, and not sacrifice their shooting. On top of that, because they can advance, and they're going to auto-advance 6 inches, when they shoot, they can then move again because of the Chronomancer. Chronomancer will also make these guys -1 to hit. So there's a lot of versatility around this unit, being able to move around the field. Again, we talk about cleanse. These guys can get up there on an objective, advancing, and still cleanse because they have assault weapons. So this unit has a lot of versatility all around. And being able to shoot and move again makes them kind of like pseudo warp spiders where they could jump out behind a wall, shoot, and then go back into safety. I really do. I really like these guys a lot. I've had a lot of fun with these units. This is one of my... I prefer this squad of Immortals over the Plasmancer with the lethal hits. I do feel like I needed one squad to do that damage. But we'll see after this. I might just go over into the double Tesla squads if I have enough damage coming off the Doomstalker, and that's kind of one of the things I'll see after this. But right now, I feel like the lethal hits are going to be necessary, and the sustained hits will still be awesome, and we'll still pop a lot of those because of the fact that, once again, this is a Cryptek unit, because there's a Cryptek with them, so they will get full rerolls to hit, or access to full rerolls to hit. Last, but surely not least, this is one time I can really say that, Illuminator Xeris. Illuminator Xeris is going to be very, very interesting because he is a Cryptek. So he, in a control node, will get full rerolls to hit with his shooting and his combat. If he does kill anything in combat, even a single model, as long as he kills one model in combat, he will get to boost hit range of his aura, which would be cool. He's super tough as it is. Toughness 8, 9 wounds, 4 up feel no pain, 4 up invuln, 2 up save. He definitely has won the genetics pool of Necron abilities. On top of the fact, what he is actually bringing is the buffs to these Immortals by giving them not only reducing the AP of incoming attacks by 1, he also increases the AP of their attacks. So now the Tesla will be AP 1, and that's what gets my Immortals with the Gauss Blasters up to AP 2. He also will be... Now, okay, so while that is a buff, the one thing we do have to watch for is there is units in the game now that can ignore that modifier, and will. So that's going to be something to watch for. I believe Lane has a unit that does ignore the modifier, so that'll be nice to see and test tonight. But I'm confident behind Xeris. Xeris is just a monster. He seems like he's just there to buff and just give these character buffs and stuff like that. And that's how a lot of people, I think, feel until he starts to get in combat and start wrecking. His gun's got a 36-inch range for some reason. I'm happy about it, not complaining, don't take it away. But yeah, he's got a 36-inch range, so he's got some range on a very, very durably good shooting gun. And again, with him being able to gain the Canoptek core buffs for being a Cryptek, he definitely has a lot of benefits out of here that I'm really looking forward to seeing here today. So that's my list. That's what I'll be playing tonight. And as I said, there was a couple of things that I'm really interested in seeing how they play out and where I could change stuff. I guess the biggest things are, do I need the infiltrates with the Wraiths? Can I just get onto an objective by sheer speed to be able to cleanse later on into the game and just continue that cleanse cycle? Or is that infiltrate necessary to have the Wraiths in position to cleanse turn 1? With that as well, do I have enough command points just at regular without being able to discard, without any other CP generation? Do I have enough to be able to run and utilize the strats? The strats that I'm looking at with this army primarily are Overwatch with the Doomstalkers. Big one there. And I apologize, I don't have the names memorized. Actually, we got the book right here. Always nice to keep the resources on hand. But we also have the stratagem for the Canoptek Court that allows us to the Curse of the Cryptek. Don't feel like I'll be using that one very much. I think that one's kind of fluffy. It's cool, but I think it's one that's just kind of, you use it if it can happen on a big target, you know, like Angron or something like that. Reactive subroutines to be able to move a unit away 6 inches. That might be important. Now that it's only Canoptek, so that would only be the Spiders and the Wraiths. Oh, and the Doomstalkers. But I feel like that's a matchup to matchup basis. Things like, what do you call it? Space Wolves. They can get him real close. I might want to move to try and put them in a position where they have to, and I did this at a tournament, to move into a position where they cannot avoid charging multiple units, so I can be able to bring more to the forefront and attack, or even just get out of the way and go, now you can't charge me because your TCAP can't go through X, Y, or Z piece of terrain. Counter temporal shift is a huge one for the Wraiths, but if I hide the Wraiths well and you can't even shoot at them or shoot at them with a lot of good guns, I can take a hit on the Wraiths. They have 4 wounds and a feel no pain, so that's not too bad. But if you really do put a lot of guns into them from long range, like the incoming Tau that we're seeing soon, for 1 command point, I can shut that down by having load up and continue to gain points off of the cleanse, as well as holding that objective marker. Curse, Xenos of Eradication. This is the devastating wound strat. Once again, I can use it for free. I could spend 2 command points onto like the spiders, because you could do this in combat to make their combat have devastating wounds. So there is some potential play there, but not really something that I feel like that's more of a win more. Like if I'm in that position where I have 2 command points to spend on something like that, I'm probably in a position where I'm already winning, so I don't necessarily need that, and it's kind of a win more thing. Otherwise, I'll do it for free to let a Cryptek have dev wounds. Why not? Solar Pulse, that one is going to be huge for the Doomstalkers. It is 1 command point, and I just need to select a Cryptek, pick a unit within 18 inches. I'm sorry, select an objective marker. So the unit's got to be on objective marker, and then I can ignore cover, which will help for the Doomstalkers and help for the Immortals too, that can re-roll wounds against units on objective markers. And then last, suboptimal facade. Definitely goes by definition of suboptimal. I don't see myself using that one as frequently because that is 1 command point to immediately activate reanimation protocols on a unit that has just been charged. With a lot of, now, and it is it a Canoptek? It is only Canoptek. So I can't even do that with the Immortals. So I can only do it with Canoptek units like the Spiders or the Wraiths. And given the fact that, yeah, it's healing D3 for a command point, I feel like that command point is going to be better served in other roles defensively that I probably won't have that going into it, but it's there. It's one that exists there, and it's one that I can't ignore. So last follow-up is, like I said, the Infiltrate. We're going to be seeing if I can run with it. Without it, I feel like right now, no. That's why it's in the list. I feel like I need that. And then the just for the extra command points and stuff like that. And then the Tesla Immortals, do I want to run 2 squads of them for their speed that they have that some of my army doesn't? You know, to be able to have the Wraiths and 2 squads of Immortals that are moving quick does sound very, very juicy. Right now, try it out with the Plasmancer. Go that route first of all. And then we'll see where that comes about, how that plays out. You know, at the end of it all, if I feel too slow, I can shift over with the Tesla Immortals over the Gauze Immortals. I do still have high damage output with the devastating wounds that I'm able to put off of the Spiders, as well as my big daddy long leg Doomstalkers. There's a lot of things that go on into that. And I guess last but not least, one of the most important things is how powerful are the Pajama Pants? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, it just really seems like the Pajama Pants power is real, and I need to embrace that as much as possible. All right, guys, as always, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.